Hello, and welcome to Story Time. I'm your host, Samantha. You may recognize me from Shudder Bugs, Shudder Bugs Shorts, Hello Creeps Canada. I'm here today to read you a scary story. This one was written by me. I wrote this. I'm sorry. Maybe you'll enjoy it. When Sara met Felix, he danced, floated almost, glided through the room like you'd expect a ballerina to move. This was in such contrast to his physique. Strong and muscled, yet lean. She knew as soon as she saw him that he was perfect. Sara had never been so struck by a man, or a woman, or anyone really. He delighted her, setting fire to parts she had long thought cold. Loins. We're talking about her loins. The bar was crowded, loud, and smelled of stale beer and old cigarettes. Sara was never very bold. She tended to keep to herself, an introvert through and through, but she loved to people watch. He caught her eye in a way she just could not ignore. So, contrary to her usual self-destruct and bolt mode, Sara made her way across the room and approached him. Hi, can I buy you a drink? Sara said, rushed. This was a bold opener for anyone, least of all her. He smiled a pearly white grin and his eyes glinted. They looked almost on fire for a moment. Sara's breath caught. Oh, hello. I'm Felix. What are we having? Felix leaned in close to wave down the bartender, and Sara was startled. He smelled like the outdoors. A smoke-filled fire, evergreen trees on a warm summer night, and... Well? Felix questioned. I'll have a bourbon on ice, please. I'm Sara, by the way, she replied. Sara, he nodded. A bourbon gal. Let's make it two. Felix collected their drinks and then steered them towards a table in the back. It's a little quieter back here, he said as he took Sara by the waist and guided her. She was acutely aware of his hand on the small of her back. In the dim light, Felix's eyes looked even more like fire. The woodsy scent was almost overwhelming Sara, but she leaned in. Don't catch on fire. She had never met someone quite like Felix. He seemed wild to her, like an animal, she thought. The two talked for hours. People slowly began to clear out, and staff began flipping chairs up onto tables to clean the floors. I suppose that's our cue, Sara suggested, standing up. Felix checked his watch. Can I walk you home? Sara was not one to invite people home with her. Hell, she wasn't one to talk to a stranger at a bar at all. But there was something about Felix that she just could not refuse. Please, she replied. The late night rolled over into early morning when Sara dozed off in Felix's arms on her old leather couch. She awoke alone, startled, with his touch and scent lingering. Felix had left a scrawled note on her coffee table. Thank you, Sara, for a wonderful night. I would love to spend time with you again. Please call me any time. Felix. She couldn't resist. She called Felix later that day. By 9 o'clock, the two were at the bar once again. Even though they had been together just hours before, Sara was still struck by the sheer size of Felix and how gently he moved despite his bulk. The two talked for hours and hours. They drank bourbon on ice and even opted to do a few tequila shots. Not something Sara would normally ever do, but it was fun. Fun, she thought. Not my usual. At the end of the night, Felix invited Sara back to his place with promises of more bourbon and maybe a pizza or two. Sara obliged, but there was something in the back of her mind, tugging at her. This is not a good idea. She ignored her errant thoughts and swept off into the dimly lit streets with a man she barely knew. Felix's place was unique. It was sparsely decorated but tidy. The furniture looked like it could have come from the 50s, but somehow still felt modern. The bachelor-style apartment seemed to be centered around his sleek and well-made bed. Felix poured 2 glasses of bourbon, though they were left abandoned on the counter as the couple slid beneath the sheets. This is not a good idea. Sara kept expecting things to change, for Felix to leave or bore of her, but their hours together turned into days, and the days turned into weeks. Sara couldn't help but feel like there was a hunger growing between them. Something beyond the tear each other's clothes off before the door closes hunger. Something deeper, something darker. But she couldn't pull herself away. It was like he had his claws in her. Early one evening, after spending the whole day in bed together, Felix approached his window. Sara knew by now that he liked to look at the stars. She watched from the bed as he opened the curtains. The moon was rising. "It'll be full tonight," said Felix, with fire in his eyes. "I really love the moon." "Me too," whispered Sara. Felix comfortably leaned back into Sara when she approached him from behind, wrapping her arm. Good job, self. I got so close. Let's start that over. Felix comfortably leaned back into Sara when she approached him from behind, wrapping her arms snugly around his bare waist. He really didn't notice anything was wrong until it was too late. The end. I did it! That was When Sara Met Felix by yours truly. I'm sure it knocked your socks right off. Thanks for tuning in and keep an eye out for more.